on this computer. Wonderful. Perfect. 546. Okay. All right. Okay. I have this really glowy thing happening. There it is. The sunlight through the trees. Okay. Are you here with us, Pablo? All right. It says it's connecting to audio. Cannot hear you yet. All right. And are you able to hear me?
I can hear you.
Wonderful. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for your patience with the intermission. So with Triadic healing, there are 3 life titans. There is your identity, your subconscious mind, and your conscious awareness. The identity is identity is love. It's what we love. It's what we want, what we dream, what we wish, what we imagine. It is pure love, 100%. Everything you love, from the time you are a child, an infant, all the way up, everything you have ever loved is you. That is your identity. It's just love. It's beautiful. It's self-love. It's love for every time you find something you love, you define yourself a little bit sharper. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. The subconscious mind is where a lot of the problems come in. No, it's where all the problems come in, is the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is absolutely mostly an unknown in the psychology world. The subconscious mind is just an artificially intelligent machine. It has no conscious awareness. It is absolutely just an operating system. It is designed with one rule only: keep the unit safe. The best way to think about the subconscious mind is to imagine this thing running around, just keep the unit safe, keep the unit safe. That is all it wants to do. That's its program. That's what it's designed to do. Now, identity has a defense system, and they are absolutely 100% linked to each other. The defense system is communication. 100% it is communication. It is verbal, oral, written communication. And our communication system has 2 parts to it: putting down the boundaries, vocalizing the boundaries, communicating the boundaries, and enforcing the boundaries. If we fail to do this and we fail to communicate, then we lose the defense system. That is when the subconscious mind comes to work and turns on the fear system. The fear system runs with one emotion: fear. It is the opposite of love. Usually fear only comes out when fear only comes out when the defense system is shut down and fails to work and identity is present. So the fear system will immediately target and suppress the identity, because it learns that the identity has caused pain, that because the identity is present, it's going to get hurt. On the outside, this is a little girl comes downstairs wearing a dress, and the mother screams, "Why are you wearing that thing?" That's all it takes. The mother is upset. When the mother is upset, things get dangerous. And the reason why is because we have this hardwired thing in perspective 1 and perspective 2, which is the family unit is what matters. That the authority is the mother or the father or the caregiver. And if you make angry the authority figure, you will die at perspective 2 and perspective 1, because you need a caregiver. That's your stage. Life and death is absolutely dependent upon their happiness, because if they're mad at you, you don't eat. Now, in gentle, loving homes, this isn't an issue, but in other homes, it is. Bad things happen when the authority is not happy with you. We experience this in every perspective. Our authority changes. Sometimes it's a tribal, sometimes it's a mother, sometimes it's an actual God, sometimes it's a boss, sometimes it's your career, sometimes it's the community, and sometimes it's yourself. It depends on where you are. Everyone has an authority. But in stages 1 and 2, in level 1 and 2 perspective, it is the caregiver and the tribe's leader, which is the mother or the father, who, if they get angry, there is a lot on the line. It is the only of everything that's there, it is the only time the authority can directly get upset and angry and sometimes violent at the individual for being an individual. And when that happens, identity gets thrown away or suppressed because mommy doesn't like that. Now that love goes away. Love for that particular item. Oh, mom doesn't like my sunglasses. I shouldn't like my sunglasses. And you've pushed yourself away, but that's a little part of you. And how many times does that happen to every one of us? Everyone can name easily 5 things that they loved as a kid that their parents hated and they weren't allowed to have. Like, so easily. I wasn't allowed to dye my hair. That's one thing right off the bat. It was me. My mom said no. So I suppressed. I had to be a conformist. I had to be a level 2 conformist, but I was a 6. So when you have this alignment, in order to fit into a 4 society, the 6 has to break off levels 5, 6, 7, and 8 to fit in. If you're a level 6 and you're living in a 2 society, most children when they're 2 live in a 2 society. Most children when they're 4 live in a 2 society. My mother was a 2. My mother is still a 2. My father is a 4. So for me, I was a 6 adhering to a 2 and a 4. And on my dad's 4 days, he was a 2. So that's when my mom and my dad got along, is when my 4 was a 2 or a 4 and my mother was a 2. So, but I was a 6. So my ethics were, you don't eat animals and you pay attention to all of the world and you think about recycling and you make sure you're eating organic and you make sure that everyone has rights. Oh, by the way, I'm a feminist, but they were a 2 and they were a 4. So then it was breaking off all those parts of me, every single one that they didn't like, and throwing them away. And that's what we are all taught. And that's what we are brainwashed and conditioned to do. And that proceeds right up until our whole lives. Usually around 35 to 45, we have this breakdown called the midlife crisis, which is actually the identity screaming, I can't take it anymore. And identity comes out. And that's when identity runs off and buys a car or divorces the wife or does something like that. It's not a midlife crisis. It's identity screaming that she exists or he exists and they have to come out. It's an absolutely extraordinary. Identity does a lot to fight for herself. I get into that later. But the conscious awareness, so this is all the balance happening between the identity and the subconscious mind and the fear system. So the fear system takes identity and crams her down. Oh, our parents don't like that. Oh, the caregiver doesn't like that. And they keep breaking off pieces. They get into the teenage years, and the more strict the home is, and well, it's not, I can't say that anymore. It's not how strict the home is. It's anytime you have somebody with an ethics that's on that spectrum, and you've got a mom or a dad who their subconscious mind is a 2 or a 4, and then they're interacting with this ethics child who's at a 6 or whatever number you're at, they're going to try and cram you down into their box, into their 2 or into their 4. When you don't fit. And the only way to make you fit is to break off all the parts they don't like that makes you match them. Now you get away from your parents and you have other people who come along, 3s who come along and tell you, no, this is how you should be. And they gaslight you and they change you. So you break and you conform to appease a lover, a girlfriend, a boyfriend. And then you go on to the next person in your life. You get married. Suddenly you're a 6, but you're married to a 5. And the 5 says you've got to be like this, but you're still a 6. So you got to break off more of you to make sure that you fit your husband now, to make sure your spouse matches you. So yeah, by the time we're 30 and 40, we don't know who we are because we've broken off everything we are. Everything we've loved, we can't have. I had one husband. He hated grape jelly. So I was not allowed to have grape jelly. I had to teach myself to not love grape jelly. I love grape jelly. But it's that subtle. It's that simple. So when you are healing, you are finding yourself again. You are going back in and you are finding everything you love. And that's all you're doing. You're not trying to figure out mathematics. You're not trying to figure out rocket science. It's funny because we're like, what do you mean find myself? I did the same thing. I was going, what does that even mean? What does it mean finding yourself? And that's when I realized you're not finding yourself. You're finding what you love. That is all you are doing, is finding what you love, because the identity is defined by what we love. I did an exercise when I was a child where I would go back, when I did my healing, when I figured this out, where I went back when I was 5 years old. When I was a perspective 2, what did I like? When I was a perspective 4, what did I like? And I would go back and I would pull each perspective and I would relive each perspective, remembering what I liked at each perspective. And this is the beautiful part where it all comes together. That moment when we say, you have to love all the parts of yourself. You have to love yourself when you were a 1, and you had to love yourself when you were a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 5, a 6, a 7, and an 8. That is when you get you back. That's you right there. We're talking about loving all the parts. Well, what does that even mean? And then we go off on this massive tangent where we're like, does that mean loving the part of myself where I was, and you try and you just can't, it just doesn't make sense. But if you're living at a perspective 6 and you only remember 4, 5, and 6, and you're at a point where you don't remember, we forget, we only retain memory of 3 levels. So by the time you get to 6, you don't remember what you were like at 1 and 2 and 3. You have to remember so you can love yourself when you were a 2 and a 3. And that concept, if you're a 4, this is why 4s and under don't go to therapy. When you are a 4, you have to learn how to forgive a 3 and a 2 and a 1. But they hate everybody above them. All they've got is 3, 4, and 5. So there's a lot of understanding happening between 3, 4, and 5. I'm sorry, I'm 2, 3, and 4. There's a lot of understanding with 2, 3, and 4. 4s look condescendingly down in 2 and 3s. 3s get pissed off because 4s are looking at them wrong. And 2s just get mad because they always feel excluded because there's this thing happening with 4 and 5 that they don't, I'm sorry, with 3 and 4 that they don't get. Sound familiar? Sound like a family reunion? That sounds exactly like every family reunion. And this is why. This is it right here. This is why people fight, is because they forget. But the problem is when you get to 5, when you finally get to that point where you go, maybe I should be in therapy, and you really take it seriously, like we are here because we're doing this, you're at a 6. You are a 5, 6. Like there is something about you that's saying, I've got to be, and I can tell you, there are people I've spoken to where I'll be talking to them and they convey their passion. And I'm thinking, oh, they are so a 7. They are a solid 7 living in a 4 world and they can't stand it. Oh, they can't stand it. You can't. So you finally get to the point where you're 4, when you're at 5, 6, and you're ready to dive into healing. And you're like, let's do this. Let's transform. Let's go. And you jump in. There's 2 problems. The first one is, the goal is to love yourself. But everybody who hits 5 and above, well, 5 and 6s hate everybody below them, and they aspire to be everybody above them. So this is the irony. When you hit 5, when it's time for you to start accepting that you're a 3 and a 2 and that you need to love yourself when you were a 2 and a 3, that's the time where they go, I hate everyone underneath me. I want to aspire to be a 6. And that's why healing takes so long. That's one reason. The other reason is because your ethics has that identity, that first digit, but so does your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is trapped / stuck, trapped, enslaved. I love to use the word enslaved, at whichever perspective abused you the most. So, were you abused when you were in a 2 society? Were you abused when you were at a 3 society? Which kind of a society abused you? I was abused by a 2 and a 4 society. Now, I had to go through a process when I was 15. I studied existentialism and philosophy, so I was able to get out of it. I was able to abandon two. Thank you, Socrates. But I really struggled getting out of four. In fact, four is the comfort zone. Four is the place where you go, oh, I want to go back because I feel safe there. That's what happens with a child. You have a child, you have the mother. The child requires its safety. This is how you get from one perspective to the next. You push to the perspective. You feel the excitement and the adventure. Wander too far and fear kicks in, and you run back to mom to get reassurance and soothing. That is how you heal. You require the soothing and the comfort. Once you soothe and you comfort, then you can go and test and look for an adventure. But don't go too far, not yet. You want to just get away from the comfort zone. So you get out there, you find the adventure. There's a joy, there's thrill, there's excitement, and then there's fear because you went too far. You run back and you get soothed and comforted. So this is how we're supposed to heal. We're supposed to use a comfort zone to soothe and calm and comfort so we can go back to adventure. But too many people become addicted to the comfort zone. So when you are growing up in a level 4 society, as we all are, and you're a 6, you're going to get to 5 and you're going to run back to mommy, which is that 4 society. You're going to push out to 6 and you're going to run back to that 4 society because that's what's safe. And you're looking to soothe you. And your subconscious mind is hardwired to that 4 because that's where you were not abused. Because that's what society wanted of you. That's what mommy and daddy wanted of you in most cases. I know a few people who are a 3 and they were parents. 3s do not make safe or good parents. 2s do not make good parents. Not at all. But those children get stuck and traumatized at 2 and 3. Now, my mom is a 5, 2, 4. So she is 5, so she's entrepreneur mind. Her ethics say, I want to go and I want to be at that 5. But her abuse was 2. So she was stuck subconsciously in a 2. She is 60 years old and she is still stuck in 2. She's talking about wanting her own business. And she has a very tribal mindset. And now I know, oh, she's got to complete these steps to get her to stage 3. Then these steps to get her to stage 4. But then she's going to have to battle that second abuse, which is the 4, which is the societal abuse, which is the, if you don't conform to the society. So she's got that as well. Once you confront that, then your healing just jumps. Once you tame the subconscious mind. But in order to tame the subconscious mind, you've got to turn off that fear system with the comfort zone. Once you turn off the fear system, then you have to revive the defense system so that you stay protected. Now you can trust. Now you have confidence. What I am doing to you right now, all of it, this is conscious awareness. Just by sitting here listening, you are raising your conscious awareness. This is it. Once you understand all the different parts, next time you get angry, you can go, whoa, why am I angry? Well, usually, anger always comes from the cognitive core and the defense system, which means that it is actually self-love coming back. And anger is saying, defend the self. The self is in danger. Don't let them do that. Use a boundary. When you get angry, you are supposed to use a boundary. But people don't. They scream. That's not a boundary. They don't know how to communicate boundaries because they don't know how to communicate. As a result, nothing gets communicated. So they become violent. Anger does not mean violent. Anger is just the emotion saying, use the boundaries, get the communication system up. No communication system, it's down because people don't like to talk. The reason why people don't like to talk is because when we were 2, living in a 2 society, we were all told the same thing. Children should be seen and not heard. So we don't talk. Children are not allowed to speak in our society. A child speaks, you're interrupting. Let the adults talk. What did you hear? What variant of this did you hear? Everyone has heard a variant of it. Children were not allowed to speak. If you were fortunate enough to be raised by 6 parents, woohoo, 6 parents let their children speak. The 4 parents don't let their children speak. So what's your combination for your parents? Figure out your combination for your parents, and you know who raised you. You'll know your subconscious mind. You'll be able to go, oh, my subconscious mind is running on a 2, or my subconscious mind is running on a 4, and it associates 2 and 4 with safety. So it's going to try and keep me there because you must keep the unit safe. Meanwhile, the identity is buried under all the beliefs and opinions of everybody else because the defense system is down. You never learn to communicate your boundaries to say, get away from me. I need you to shut up now. Whatever it is you need to say, I need to protect the self and the individual right now. So that is when you just pulling all of this together and seeing what it is you're really doing when you're stepping into that. It's really an extraordinary a different way to look at people. What you can apply this to your parents, you can apply this with your spouse, you can apply this with your children. Like everybody in your life is this combination, a variation of this combination. And it literally, I'm at a point now where I can speak to somebody and just by the words they use, I can tell what they are. I can tell their combination right away. Just because there's certain words that a 2 would use that a 6 would never use. So there's certain words I hear that I can go, oh, they're a 4, and 5 to 10 more minutes and you can break down their subconscious mind. But it's at a point where I'm putting together a quiz where you can take a quiz and you'll be able to tell what your ethics are, what your subconscious mind is, and what your perspective, what our perspective is a 4. Our perspective, that's what society deems that's what we're living in. So everyone's perspective is a 4. But if you're supposed to be a 6 and you're living in a 4 society, you're gonna have a problem. If you're a 2 and a 3, if you're a 6 and you're forced to adhere to an abusive 2 and 4 society, it's gonna mess you up because you need that alignment. And to get the alignment, you need to be at the right perspective. The only way you're getting to the right perspective is if you take the time and nurture and heal the identity and re-raise that voice, your vocal, your communication system with your ability to set boundaries. And again, it's the emotion. Anger comes in, and that's not violence. That's one of the paths you can take. The other path is supposed to be communication, where you use your defense system. That's where anger comes from. Anger is absolutely, horns are blaring, we're going to war for the self. There's nothing more beautiful than anger when it's used properly. But we are not taught to use it properly. So people who suppress become angry because that's what their parents told them to do. Figure out what your parents are, figure your parents' combination, and you'll be able to immediately plug everything in. Everything just clicks into place. Your communication will go so much smoother. And with this information, it's extraordinary because when you walk into a situation and you start talking to somebody, it's suddenly you stop seeing them as their age. You stop seeing them as their education level, and you stop seeing them as what you think they are. Like my brother-in-law, who I thought was a 2, turns out I was reading his subconscious mind. He's not a 2, he's a 5 who was abused by 2. So he acts like 2 to keep himself safe. Only to find out he was a 5 the whole time. So now I know I can talk to him like a 5. And I know I can talk to him like a 2 to make him feel safe. So the 2 makes him feel comfortable and safe because that's where he was abused. But the 5 is who he really is. And what you want more than anything is to match up your subconscious mind with your ethics. Your subconscious mind, if you're a 6, your subconscious mind needs to be a 6. That's what's hurting you. That is pain. That is mental illness. Any questions? Go ahead and unmute if you want to talk now. Pablo? Did either one of you want to say something, or?
I think I just have to see the whole thing again because
It's a lot.
it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I have diagrams also, and I have a worksheet. Like I have all this written out. So I will definitely be sending it to you probably tomorrow. I'll send you an email with the recordings. And anyone who wants this, It's going to be posted in that Facebook group. But that's, yeah, like seeing it all laid out and then being able to sit down and go, okay, who am I? Where am I in this? And then you can just go through the 7 points. When you filled out the Google form that I sent you, there was 7 questions. You were actually picking it out. Let me take a look here at the Google form and I can tell you what you selected. It was extraordinary. When I put this in here, I was like, oh, that really, really simplified. Okay, there it is. Let me go over to, I'm still learning how to use text, so just give me a moment. And are you okay with me saying this out loud?
I don't remember what I put in, but I guess it's okay.
Okay, all right.
I'm not sure I put the right
Yeah.
thing in, because
Okay.
it was just
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Listening.
All right. I'm not able. Okay. I'm not tech savvy enough to do this apparently. But let me go ahead and yeah, I'll send over the worksheet for you and you'll be able to take a look at what we have available. And then once you complete the workshop, then it'll be, yeah, it'll be, you'll be able to figure out what your combination is. But once your combination is like, that's it. That's really, that tells you where you are. And if your first number is a 5 or a 6, then you know, oh, I need to get to 5 or 6. Am I there? What's my subconscious mind at? Once you realize what your subconscious mind at is, and that's where definitely look at 4. But if your parents were either a 2 or a 3, absolutely at that point, look at it and go, okay, if my parents were a 2 or a 3, weigh in the abuse, like do your best. And honestly, go by your gut. Go absolutely by your intuition on this. Absolutely feel your intuition on it. And that will tell you, oh, that's my comfort zone. That's where my subconscious mind is trying to fit me so I'll stay safe. But almost all of us have a 4 in us because, I mean, unless you were raised with a 5, 6, or 7, you were heavily raised in the society in number 4. So, and that's fine if you're a 4. You're absolutely fine to be a 4. You're absolutely fine to be a 3. But if you are a 6, that 4 is not going to feel good to you. If you're a 7 and 8, if you're a 5, that's not going to feel good for you, not at all. So yeah, that's really where it, yeah, I tell you, it says so much. It really says so much.
You can learn more about the steps and the perspectives on like your YouTube videos and your Facebook page.
I only offer the detailed steps in my courses. That's Triadic Healing. What's available on my YouTube channel and everything else is the introduction to the subconscious mind and the parts and the purpose. It's all of it except the checklist. The checklist with assignments is included in Triadic Healing, but how to go, yeah, it's basically you want to focus on self-care and then you want to, so it's like, it's not the steps, it's just the direction you want to take with it. It's a huge compass, like go that direction. This is where you want to start. So, and it's all, yeah, it's basically course 1 is what I have available in all of my YouTube. And then on my Facebook page, I offer exercises. I have a self-care carousel, all geared to, it's funny because it looks like self-care, but it's actually, I strategically put it out because it's designed to reacquaint you with your communication system and your defense system. And it is supposed to raise your awareness to what you love. So it's gratitude journal. It is your bucket list. The bucket list is the big one. The bucket list is, what did you dream when you were 5? That's what you want to go back to. Remember when you were perspective 2. What did you want when you were perspective 2? Remember what you wanted when you were perspective 2. So this whole thing is literally pursuit for perspective. That's really what healing is. You are pursuing your perspective. And your perspective is absolutely defined by who you are, what you love. That's all your perspective is. Who are you, what you love, and what you love, what you value, what your ethics are, depends on where you fall in that system. So if you were born a 6, that's what you love. That's who you are. And that's where you gravitate towards. Now, what I love to do with the Graves spiral dynamics is I like to draw 3 massive lines right through it. So the spirals come down like this, level 1, level 2, level 3, and I like to draw 3 lines. The top one is ethereal, and those are your empaths. These are the people who can feel the energy field. And then the bottom line is the people who cannot. And then there's that middle line, which is neutral. So you can be in level 1 and really tuned into that energy, or you can be a level 1 and not feel it at all, be completely numb to it. Most of these people follow science. Most of these people follow spirituality, religion, faith. These people don't really care about either one. These are the neutrals, which is why you could have a level 1 ethereal and they're completely different than a level 1, all of them. Like a level 3 ethereal is so different than a level 3 scientist or neutral. Very, very different. This is where you get, if you look at level 3s, this is why some people, when they hit level 3, they become independent but not violent. But if you're a 3 and you don't feel, you're not tuned into that, it's just the way they process their anger. There's a lot involved to it. I'm going to have to do more research on this before I say anything about it. I was hypothesizing, but then I went, well, this is getting into, I don't know. I have to do more research on that. But yeah, there's definitely, you could be, just because you're a 4s are so much fun, because 4s are so interesting. 4, you've got the ethereal 4s, and then you've got the scientist 4s, and then you've got that neutral 4. Neutral 4 loves 4. Oh my goodness, they love 4. But if you're an ethereal 4, you're just passing through. You are not going to stick around 4. If you are on that ethereal plane, you are probably being pulled to 7. Absolutely. If you are on ethereal, you are on your way to 7. If you're an empath, you are on your way to 7. Like it's wonderful, because it's like all the people over here just don't feel the energy, and all the people here feel the energy. And that's where the divide is happening. Now, here's the other one. People who are 5 and older, or not older, no age here, people who are level 5 and higher love education. They value it. Levels 1 through 4 don't love education. And I'm going to change this to say 1 through 5, because 5 is that transitional where you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to get 5s who act like 4s, 5s who act like 5s, and then 5s who act like 6s. So just because you're a 5, you could be, it's a very transitional stage. So basically 5 and under hates education. They do not value it, which is why our 4 society keeps cutting funding for education, which is why our education system is terrible. When we get to 5, our education system is going to skyrocket. And that's really going to propel us, because we finally have somebody who values education. But you get 5 and higher, they're the ones who value education. So there's another massive, massive back. Can you guys see me at all? Or is the sun like just, I'm going to like go over here. There we go. Is that better?
It's good.
All right. So yeah, that's something else to keep in mind. So it's, yeah, once you start to see it, it's extraordinary. And once you get your loved ones involved in it and you start to see, like you start to work out their combination, it's extraordinary, because it just, oh, I understand you. And that was the other thing. And this back to the moving example that I did yesterday. It was hilarious. I realized all this. So I was talking to my brother-in-law, like he was a 2 and a 5. I was talking to my stepfather, like a solid 5. He's an ethereal 5. He is so hippie. It's great. He's the reason why I am what I am, a part of it. And then I've got my 2 kids who are 6s trapped in a 4 society, moving into a 5. My son's moving into a 5. So I've got all these set up. And I'm sitting here interacting, and I'm negotiating around, and there's things I can't do. I cannot do. So 6s 6s, 7s hire 3s and 4s to do grunt work because they can't do it. It's very rare that they can do it, just because their mentality is different. It's a, why would I do this when I could just pay somebody? Or they're completely different mentality. But people who are 3, 4s, and 5s, they hire the 5, 6, and 7s to do other kind of work. They're the ones who say, I want to do a business, but I don't know how to do a business plan. I want to do business, but I don't know how to do an AI. I'm going to have to contact somebody. So 3, 4, and 5s hire higher ups, whereas the 5, 6, 7s have to hire these people. And this is where you start to see everyone working together. This is where it's like, oh, they do the work that I don't do. Now, this is awesome. So I'm an 8, but my brother-in-law, he's a 5. And I went, oh, what kind of a business do you want to do? Now I'm over here doing the healing garden because I'm an 8. So that's where I'm at. But he's sitting here talking to me about being or wanting to do landscaping and gardening. And it's something, I love landscaping, I love gardening, but I would never do it as a business, because that's very much a 2 and 3 perspective. I would never do that. And he brightened right up. He was like, yeah, and he told me all about his plans. And I went, that's when it occurred to me, he's a 5, and you can still have a business that runs like a 2, which means once we evolve into that society, once we figure this all out and people start realizing, what am I doing at a 3 job? I should be at a 6 job. I need to quit this job to go get this job. This is why we change jobs. This is when we realize, oh, my identity, my ethics says that I'm a 6. I need to go find a job that emanates 6s. Oh, I am a 3 and a 2. All I want to do is farm, but I'm stuck in a lawyer's office. A lawyer is around 5. Those are the people who love that. 5s and 6s, no, 5s, solid 5s. Lawyers are 5s. They immediately, and they love it. They stay there. They stay there. They love it. Doctors are 5s. Doctors, well, it depends. Doctors who go into research, now they could be pushing 6s and 7s. So it really depends on where everybody is. You okay? All right. Any other questions?
Not from me.
Okay.
No.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and wrap everything down then. I want to thank you so much for joining me. I do have the masterclass available and membership available. Also, I have the Power of Self courses that I do every month. And those are, I just finished up my first one in July. I have one in August coming up, Goddess Training, that covers empowerment, self-empowerment. And then I have the one after that. I get into love, romance, and relationships, and how Triadic healing and the spiral dynamics all ties into that. And that is available over at my website. So, and I will have also the link included in the video.
Great.
So thank you so much for joining me. And I will be sending this out to you both tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Take care.
Bye.